They've been watching you, not with eyes you can see, not with cameras or satellites, but with something far more invasive. Algorithms designed to categorize anomalies like you, digital shadows that track patterns you didn't know you were leaving. And somewhere in a cold facility lit by fluorescent lights, your file landed on a desk, not as a person, but as a problem requiring a solution. They drafted two documents, two completely different trajectories for your existence. One that brings you into the fold, one that removes you from the equation entirely. Welcome or goodbye, partnership or erasure. They don't do third options in their operational manuals. The first document promised you everything: access to the machinery, visibility into how things really work, a seat among those who pull the strings. They dressed it up in purpose and belonging, made it look like elevation, like finally being seen for what you're capable of. Come inside, they said. Use your mind for something bigger than yourself. Channel your capabilities into our objectives. Become part of the architecture instead of standing outside looking in. And maybe for a moment you felt that pull, that temptation to finally understand, to finally have power, to finally be on the winning side. The other document didn't need flowery language, just coordinates, timestamps, clinical terminology. Subject flagged for systematic marginalization, not with violence, not overtly, but through sustained strategic pressure. Isolation protocols activated, opportunities redirected, influence contained, existence rendered irrelevant through coordinated resistance. Because minds like yours don't get to roam free if they won't be controlled. The framework only allows two designations: useful asset or manageable threat, recruitment or neutralization, option A or option B. But here's what shattered their entire operational paradigm. Here's what sent their analysts scrambling to rewrite protocols that had never failed before. You didn't choose either path they constructed. You chose something that wasn't supposed to exist in their binary system. Option C, the glitch that proved their framework isn't as absolute as they believed. You looked at their recruitment offer with all its promises of insider access and classified knowledge, and you understood the trap. Not with paranoia, but with clarity, that quiet recognition that anyone offering you power already has more power than they're offering. And then you looked at their elimination strategy with all its implied threats and systematic pressure, and something shifted inside you. Not fear, but understanding. You realize they can only eliminate someone who needs something from them, who fears something they control. And you'd already walked through fire that was supposed to consume you. You'd already survived the death that matters, not physical, but the death of who you thought you had to be. The death of needing validation from systems designed to keep you dependent. The death of measuring yourself by metrics they invented to keep you chasing. So now they're reviewing footage that doesn't compute, reading reports that contradict each other, analyzing behavioral patterns that just vanished from their predictive models. Not because you disappeared, but because you transcended their classification system entirely. See, they catalog consciousness by weakness, by need, by fear, by leverage points they can exploit. But you've become something their instruments weren't designed to measure. Not off their grid, beyond it completely. You're the anomaly that proved their system has limits they never acknowledged. And that terrifies them more than any conventional threat ever could. Because if one consciousness can simply refuse the binary choice, if one mind can opt out of their entire framework, then the architecture of control starts showing cracks. If one person can choose option C, how many others might follow? How many others are already following without them knowing? The recruitment notice arrived disguised as opportunity, wrapped in recognition of your capabilities, painted with promises of finally being understood. Join us, see behind the curtain, operate in the shadows where real decisions happen. Shape reality from the back rooms where power actually lives. Maybe you felt it, that seductive whisper that you could finally be inside instead of outside. But then you remembered something crucial. Recruitment isn't partnership, it's employment. It's the illusion of elevation while keeping you permanently subordinate to those who recruited you. The cost was your sovereignty, your autonomy, your soul's independence. So you declined, not with confrontation, but with complete disengagement. Not with words, but with silence that spoke volumes they couldn't translate. Then came the other message, the subtle one that never arrives in physical form, but makes itself known through coordinated difficulties, systematic obstacles appearing in your path, opportunities that vanish, connections that go cold. This is elimination without bullets, suffocation without violence, strategic pressure designed to make you break yourself, make you crawl back begging for option A just to make it stop. They thought if they couldn't recruit you, they could at least contain you, make you irrelevant, make you disappear into obscurity. And maybe it scared you for a while. Maybe you felt invisible forces working against everything you tried to build, but here's their fatal miscalculation. Here's the flaw in their elimination protocol that only becomes apparent too late. You can't eliminate someone who's already accepted their own death. Not physical death, but the death of attachment to outcomes. The death of needing to be understood. The death of fear itself. You'd already walked through that valley, already stared into the void and decided to stay there for a while. Make it home, learn its language. You'd already lost everything that matters in the ways normal people measure loss. And in that loss, in that emptiness, you found something they can never take because they don't have language to describe it. Freedom. Not freedom to do whatever you want, but freedom from needing anything from systems designed to harvest your compliance. And that makes you more dangerous than any recruited asset could ever be. Because recruited assets still need something, still fear something, still operate within the framework. But you're operating from a place they can't map, can't predict, can't manipulate, because you've removed yourself from their equation entirely. Option C wasn't about choosing neither path. Option C was about recognizing that their binary choice was itself the trap. They presented recruitment or elimination as if those were the only possibilities, as if your existence had to be processed through their framework, as if your value had to be determined by their metrics. But the moment you rejected the premise, the moment you refused to let them define what options were available to you, the moment you said, not your game, not your rules, not your authority to determine what happens to my consciousness, that's when you became truly uncontrollable. And uncontrollable is the one thing power structures cannot tolerate, cannot process, cannot ultimately defeat. They can handle rebels because rebels still acknowledge the system they're rebelling against. They can handle criminals because criminals still operate within defined frameworks. But someone who simply opts out, someone who builds their own reality independent of their construction, someone who neither seeks their approval nor fears their consequences, that person is a walking existential threat to everything they've built. Now let me tell you what's happening in classified briefings you'll never see. Reports being filed about you in databases you don't have access to. Subject continues operating outside predictable behavioral models. Asset acquisition failed. Elimination protocols ineffective due to target's apparent immunity to standard pressure tactics. Recommendation unknown. Subject demonstrates capacity to thrive in isolation, suggesting traditional leverage points are non-existent. Psychological profile indicates complete detachment from validation-seeking behaviors, making standard manipulation ineffective. Conclusion: subject represents unprecedented challenge to operational framework. They're writing that about you right now, trying to understand how someone can walk away from both the carrot and the stick, how someone can build influence without their permission, how someone can be powerful without entering their channels, how someone can be dangerous without being aggressive. And here's the beautiful, terrifying truth about option C. Once you choose it, once you really choose it, there's no going back to seeing the world through their lens. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't unknow what you've learned. You can't unfeel this freedom that comes from radical non-participation in systems designed to harvest your energy, your attention, your fear. Every institution, every structure, every authority that once seemed solid now looks like theater, looks like agreed-upon fiction, looks like collective hallucination held together only by everyone's continued belief in it. And the moment you stop believing, the moment you stop participating, the moment you stop feeding it with your energy, it loses all power over you. Not because you destroyed it, but because you simply stopped acknowledging its authority to define your reality. They're monitoring this transmission right now, running these words through algorithms, trying to determine if this constitutes radicalization, if this crosses into dangerous territory. And let me save them time. Yes, this is dangerous. Yes, this constitutes a threat. But not the kind they're trained to handle, not violence, not destruction, not chaos. This is a threat of consciousness, a threat of awakening, a threat of people recognizing that authority is only authority as long as you grant it, that power is only power as long as you believe in it, that the emperor has no clothes and never did. This is the threat of people choosing option C en masse. People opting out of binary choices, people building parallel realities that don't require permission from central authorities, people remembering that sovereignty isn't granted, it's claimed. You didn't just reject their recruitment, you rejected their entire worldview. Their assumption that power flows from institutions, that meaning comes from their approval, that your existence needs to be categorized and controlled within their frameworks. And in doing so, you became something they have no protocol for, no contingency plan, no effective counter-strategy. Because how do you recruit someone who doesn't want what you're offering? How do you eliminate someone who's already died? How do you control someone who's discovered they never needed you in the first place? You can't. And that realization, that growing understanding that their power is more limited than they pretended, that's what keeps them up at night. That's what makes you more dangerous than any weapon, any army, any conventional threat could ever be. Now I know what some are thinking. This sounds paranoid, like delusion, like grandiosity taken to extremes. And maybe it would be if this was about you individually, if this was about personal specialness, if this was about being chosen or uniquely important. But it's not. It's about something simpler and more radical. It's about recognizing that every system of control depends on your participation, that every hierarchy depends on your acknowledgement, that every authority depends on your consent, even if that consent was manufactured through conditioning and fear and social pressure. And the moment you withdraw that consent, the moment you stop participating, the moment you say, "Not my circus, not my monkeys, not my game," You don't just free yourself, you expose the mechanism, you reveal how the trick works, you become living proof that the prison door was never actually locked. They gave you two options because binary choices are how control operates. It's the illusion of choice while ensuring all choices lead back to their benefit. Recruitment makes you useful. Elimination removes your threat. Either way, their framework remains intact. Their power remains unquestioned. But Option C breaks the game entirely. Option C says your framework is irrelevant, your authority is imaginary, your power over me exists only in your imagination and in my fear, and I'm no longer afraid. And once that fear dissolves, once that recognition crystallizes, once that truth becomes lived experience rather than intellectual concept, everything changes. Not externally, maybe not in ways they can measure, but internally in ways that alter your entire relationship to reality itself. You're walking different now, aren't you? Moving through the world with strange confidence that doesn't come from ego, but from deep, unshakable knowing. You see their games now. You see the manipulation, the control systems, the fear tactics. And instead of being controlled by them, you're just fascinated. Studying them like an anthropologist studies primitive rituals. You're not angry at the system anymore. You're not fighting it, not trying to reform it or fix it. You've simply moved beyond it. You're building something else, something they can't see, can't measure, can't infiltrate, because it exists in frequencies their instruments weren't designed to detect. And every day you wake up and continue building this alternative reality, every day you operate from this space of sovereignty, every day you refuse to be recruited or eliminated, you make Option C more real, more viable, more available to others still trapped in the binary. The agents reviewing your file, they're not your enemies. They're not evil. They're just trapped in a system that requires them to see everything through its lens, that forces them to categorize every consciousness as either asset or threat, either useful or dangerous, and they genuinely cannot comprehend someone who is neither. You're not anti-system. You're post-system. You're not rejecting their authority. You're simply not acknowledging it as relevant to your existence. And that cognitive dissonance, that inability to categorize you, is what makes their systems glitch. Their algorithms fail, their predictive models collapse. Because you represent something they designed their entire framework to prevent. The possibility that power can exist completely independent of their structures. Let me tell you what recruitment really means in their language. It means we've identified you as someone with enough intelligence to be dangerous, so we're offering you a cage that looks like opportunity. It means we see your potential and we want to channel it into our purposes before you figure out you could channel it into your own. It means we're scared of what you might become if we don't contain you. So we're offering you the illusion of insider status in exchange for your complete loyalty. Every recruitment offer ever made carries this message. We need you under control, and we're hoping we can convince you that being controlled by us is actually freedom. And elimination, that's just the backup plan when recruitment fails. The acknowledgement that if they can't make you useful, they need to make you irrelevant. Not through violence necessarily, but through subtle, systematic marginalization. Through making sure your voice doesn't reach too far, your influence doesn't spread too wide, your example doesn't inspire too many others to choose Option C. They'll use algorithms to suppress your content, social pressure to isolate you, economic pressure to make survival difficult, psychological pressure to make you doubt yourself, all of it designed with one purpose: to make you come back, to make you accept recruitment on any terms, to make you so desperate and isolated that you'll beg for option A just to make the pressure stop. But here's what they never accounted for. Every pressure tactic they use, every obstacle they place, every difficulty they engineer, it just proves your point. It validates your choice. It confirms you were right to opt out. Because if they really had legitimate authority, if they really represented anything worth participating in, they wouldn't need to pressure you. Legitimate power doesn't force compliance. Real authority doesn't manufacture consent. Actual value doesn't need manipulation. And the more they pressure, the more they reveal that their power was always illusory, always dependent on your belief in it, always contingent on your fear. You're in a strange space now, a liminal zone between their world and your own, between their reality and the one you're constructing. They still see you on their screen, still track your digital presence, still monitor your communications, still file reports about your activities, but they're not seeing you. They're seeing a ghost, a projection, a version of you that exists in their databases but no longer corresponds to your actual consciousness. The real you, the sovereign you, the you that chose option C, exists in a space they have no access to, operates on frequencies they can't detect, thinks thoughts that don't translate into their language, and this displacement, this existing in their world but not of their world, this is what drives them insane. This is what makes you such a persistent, unsolvable problem. Some listening to this are still in the consideration phase, still weighing options, still wondering if maybe recruitment isn't so bad, if maybe the benefits outweigh the costs, if maybe being on the inside is worth the price of admission. And that's fine, that's natural. That's the journey everyone takes before they're ready for option C. But let me ask you something. When was the last time someone offered you real power? Not access to their power, not permission to operate within their systems, not a seat at their table, but actual sovereign, autonomous, self-directed power. Never, right? Because power structures don't offer real power. They offer proximity to power. They offer participation in power. They offer the feeling of power while maintaining ultimate control. Real power, the kind that can't be revoked or regulated or ruled over, that's something you claim for yourself. That's something you build in spaces they don't control. That's something you generate through radical non-participation in their games.